The signal was always there, hidden in static, buried in fragments, in usernames, whispers, metadata. Old forum posts, deleted tweets, dark web echoes, and the stories people thought nobody would ever find. Before hashtags became headlines, before open source intelligence became a buzzword, 2 women were already living it. One came from military intelligence, Arabic linguist, warfighter support, CIA, DIA, innovation labs built before the world understood why they mattered. Kirby Blesses, founder, builder, teacher, operator. A service-disabled veteran who turned intelligence tradecraft into a global classroom. More than 25,000 investigators trained, FBI, DEA, federal agencies, corporate teams, analysts chasing fraud, criminal networks, terrorist finance and human trafficking, cryptocurrency trails and digital ghosts hiding in plain sight. From South by Southwest stages to international crime conferences, Kirby helped shape modern OSINT before most people could even define it. And while the internet evolved, she kept teaching people how to see through it. Then there's Sarah Walmer, researcher, instructor, analyst, editor, OSINT practitioner for more than 2 decades. Long before social media dominated the battlefield, Sarah was studying how extremists would weaponize online platforms. In 2008, she authored reports projecting terrorist use of Twitter before the rest of the world caught up. Fort Huachuca, the 304th Military Intelligence Battalion, training soldiers, building curricula, publishing operational intelligence products, teaching analysts how to think, not just what to search. Baghdad during the invasion of Iraq, Riyadh, the State Department after September 11th, counter disinformation, counter extremism, hostile propaganda analysis, a career spent decoding influence narratives and the psychology behind information warfare, and somehow through all of it, still making time for rescue hounds and laughter yoga. Different paths, same mission, to understand the world through the evidence people leave behind. Together they became OSINT IRL. Not just a show, not just a podcast, a conversation between practitioners, a place where tradecraft meets humanity, where investigators, analysts, journalists, researchers, and curious minds pull back the curtain on the digital world we all live inside. This is about more than tools. It's about intuition, pattern recognition, curiosity, context, the art of seeing what others miss. Because the internet never forgets, and neither do they. Welcome to OSINT IRL.
Hi, Sarah.
Good evening, Kirby.
Well, it's afternoon for me, but evening for you. Yes. So today we're going to talk about Operation SpecTor, and this one has to do with the dark web. We do already have our show notes online, so if anybody wants to check out the notes around this video, you can identify what we're talking about. But that was basically a 2023 multinational law enforcement operation targeting Darknet drug trafficking. Sarah, should we show the video first, or should we describe it a little bit?
I think the video is pretty good with providing an overview of it. So
okay, and this video is coming from the FBI, so we can show quite a bit of it. I have 2 specific parts that I want to kind of show you. So let's go ahead and play the video.
J-Code is a partnership between 13 U.S. agencies FBI, DEA, postal investigators, HSI, and IRS from the operational side.
We work Darknet drug investigations. We search for who is selling illicit drugs online. So that could be opioids involving fentanyl, Oxycontin pills. We also see heroin, meth, cocaine, you name it, whatever drugs, illicit drugs are available, they're probably being sold on the darknet.
We focus on the vendor side of it here in the US, but the marketplace themselves and often the infrastructure is located overseas, heavily in European countries. And so we work a lot with our Europol partners.
Okay, so I want to highlight this part. Darknet marketplaces operate largely on the misguided belief that transactions occur behind a veil of anonymity, which clearly they do not, right, Sarah? I have another tab I'm going to show you, another short part of the same video. The video link is in the show notes, so you can watch the whole thing if you want. It's only 5 minutes, so it's worthwhile.
Most of these darknet actors, the reason they're operating on the darknet is they don't see it as much of a risk as if they're doing hand-to-hand deals on the street. But we can see these transactions just as well as we can see those.
You might think that you have complete anonymity when you're operating in these environments, but the FBI, J-Code, and our law enforcement partners are able to pierce that.
All right, so this is really kind of an explanation of what J-Code is, but Operation SpecTor kind of went a little bit further even than that. So we're just going to kind of talk about it a little bit, then we've got some resources to show you on our knowledge base, and let's remove this. All right, so again, this is the specific Operation SpecTor happened in 2023, and it took down multiple drug marketplaces. And again, it was coordinated across all sorts of law enforcement, including US, Europe, Brazil, Europol, Eurojust, J-Code, FBI, and partner agencies in multiple countries. The results were 288 arrests, 117 firearms, 150 kilograms of drugs, and 53.4 million in cash and cryptocurrency. So this is a case in the limits of anonymity on the dark web, right, Sarah? The dark web markets that were designed to make vendors and buyers and administrators hard to identify. It can show how you can still identify these, often through open source online traces. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how OSINT professionals can identify this stuff and via product listings, form activity, reputation systems, reuse of identity across platforms, things like that. So I'm going to ask Sarah some questions, and she is going to fill us in. So the first one is, what makes Operation SpecTor especially relevant to OSINT community?
Well, I mean, it provides a very good case example of how open source intelligence can be utilized for darknet drug investigations. Not all of the evidence, but a lot of material was pulled from OSINT, or at least pivotable leads were from OSINT. So let's say before a law enforcement agent might make a buy to see if the product was actually being sold, they would find that product, via open source information, and then make the order to see if they actually got it.
Right. If you're doing a dark web sweep, kind of like this Operation SpecTor, it has to start out OSINT. I mean, it could be that people are telling you, okay, maybe, I don't know, I guess you could be collecting source tips. There's a marketplace here, there's a marketplace here, but most of the time those marketplaces are advertising themselves. And so what they are doing is they are sweeping up whichever ones they, want to try and get a grip on. And to be quite honest, anything in the dark web, you can do some OSINT research on. Whether or not you're going to be as successful as the ones that they took down in this cases is variable, but there's no perfect OSINT or perfect OPSEC when you're maintaining like a dark web marketplace like that. Doesn't necessarily exist. I think that, just you could do everything right, and one tiny thing that didn't exist in the past but does exist now can give you away, so it's really hard to maintain those kind of anonymity in the dark web marketplaces. Still, those are designed for anonymity. So what kind of publicly observable traces can exist in those environments, Sarah? And I will bring up our source.
There's a lot. Everything from somebody using the same screen name on and off the dark web, to different, the marketplace name, being able to track a marketplace name to different places. So Silk Road at one point, it had more than one location, because it switched from point A to point B. So I think that when you're looking at it, you have to look at just like the clear web. What are those repeatable patterns that you would see? Clear web a lot of times will also cross apply to the dark web. And then the other thing is, things like cryptocurrency addresses, wallet addresses, or wallet locations. Those are also helpful as well, if you're paying with crypto. So, I mean, there's a lot of different leads that you can use. And then with the rise of artificial intelligence becoming more popular, it's now becoming much easier to pull information off of the Darknet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a question for you. So something we were talking about before this and like throughout the last week is that sometimes you are way ahead of everybody. And I have to say, let's get a definition here. So you said the Silk Web, they have multiple locations.
Oh, Silk Road.
Silk Road. There's more than one location because they go from point A to point B. What does that mean? Point A to point B.
Oh, okay. So when Silk Road, which was one of the big, first marketplaces to get busted, before it got busted, it had one onion address, and then I guess the people got worried that maybe that onion address was getting a little bit too much attention, so it switched to another onion address. And right now there's an example with chat or fraud GPT moving. So today, like I saw where the dark LLM, large language model, or AI agent, moved from one onion address to another onion address because it keeps getting like whack-a-mole. So it gets in trouble in one place, so it goes to another place. But as long as they're still using the same name, like the same market name, if it's a drug market, that a lot of times it's easier to pivot to where the new location is. You just have to be really careful that it's not like a copycat market, because that will also happen when somebody will name their market after another market and just run it as a scam in order to get cash and then not send any product. But those are usually up for a short time, where they'll send a little bit of product and then shut it down.
Okay, so that brings me back to like some of more definitions. So you have like multiple locations for the real Silk Road, and those are called mirrors, right? So a lot of times they'll be advertised, and the official marketplace will advertise that they have a certain number of mirrors, and so you can, like, if one's down, you can try another one. The scammers, the copycatters, is because there's no such thing as copyright in the dark web, right? So they throw up whatever they want, put the branding on it, make it look just like that, and maybe they're just trying to capture some money before they exit and get out of there. But why, Sarah, would that work? Why are there mirrors? Why do they use the same username or the same ones across different mirrors? But also, what you said that they use it also in the regular web. You might be able to see somebody using the same username, or the Silk Road references out in the regular web. Why would they use that?
I mean, there's a variety of different reasons for it. One of them, I mean, just goes back to marketing and branding. So if you have a reliable brand for opiates, or and people are buying from that storefront, and that's where they're getting their drugs, and they're like, oh, these are good opioids, then
the reputation.
Right, they want to maintain their brand or their reputation. So in that sense, that would be a market reason. There are sometimes, though, I would argue that sometimes with the screen names, sometimes it's just because a person is lazy, or they they want to maintain their presence across, which I guess would again relate more to branding. But if it's for OPSEC, sometimes it's something they're not thinking about.
Okay, all right. So you had a link you wanted me to show for this specific thing, and so this has to do with branding, and it's in a search engine called Ahmia. I'm going to show it, and if Sarah, if you don't mind telling us about this.
Okay. So
before you do, let's highlight that we had a human meat section in one of our videos that went down. So there's a short up about human meat. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yes. Okay. So when you go on the Darknet, I mean, there's you can buy all kinds of things on the Darknet. One of which is there's people that will sell organs, or they'll sell body parts, and this is a brand for what they call human meat, and it's a storefront that advertises the sale of human flesh with recipes, with the argument that they're getting it from morgues. And typically what has happened with this specific URL is that it will move so often because it gets so much scrutiny that it'll go to a mirror quite frequently, and then the old site will be down, or the old onion will be down.
Probably all down from what you've had.
Probably. I mean, yeah. So but that just gives an example of just showing if you do a simple search of one word, which was the word meat, and boom, you have them all pop up. The same thing happens with drug markets. If you have a particular name of a drug market and you pop it into one of these search engines, then you're going, and there's multiple search engines, then you're going to get different onion URLs of where that marketplace is. Yeah.
Okay. So can these usernames and store names, etc., be things that you can pivot on for OSINT?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can pivot on. Everything from looking at the reviews. Sometimes you can pivot to buyers from the reviews. You can pivot to, sometimes the cryptocurrency addresses are used for other things besides just that storefront. You might find other business activities related to that crypto address. So, I mean, there's just like with on the transparent web, you have pivotable information on the marketplace.
Yeah, I would agree. So one of the things that I teach is that we need to, when you first go into the dark web, you want to take a really good look at everything on that page and think of it all as identifiers. And some are going to be really good identifiers, like a crypto address or an email address. And some of them are not going to be good, like a username, but it's still a decent one. I mean, other people can copy their username, but again, we are searching for their branding, like even their images, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, even a brand, like they brand logos. Or sometimes if they're not using a stock image, like a fake stock image, but if they're using an actual product image that they've taken, a lot of times you can reverse search that image and then find it in other locations, including in some instances on the transparent web.
So let's talk about these images. So there's like 3 types of images I can think about, and I want to ask you some questions about this. One is they take a picture of the actual product, drugs that they're selling, to prove that they're selling these drugs. The second one would be maybe they stole that picture from somewhere. I know a great example where it was actually a law enforcement bust had laid out all of the drugs, took a picture, and drug market people were using that picture as if it was their, that's what their inventory was. But then also now AI images out there. So here's a question I have. Say you identify something as an AI image. Is it garbage then? Is there anything to do with it?
It's not garbage because it's still a representation of what they're advertising.
Could they be using that same AI image in like the different like hidden mirrors or related sites? Or
yeah,
things like that?
Absolutely. And if they generated the AI image themselves, like if that seller generated that AI image, then that AI image might or may not be limited to that seller, because I mean, obviously there are no copyright laws, so people can, you know, grab somebody's image and reuse it. But if you're lucky, you can get a cluster, you know, that would have that same one.
Okay. Okay. And then what about the ones that they just stole offline? That's
Well,
not actually.
that's just like stock photos. I mean, you would look at it and say that's a generic image, and then you would have to combine it more. Well, you have to combine everything holistically, but you would then look at like market reviews. You would look at how long has the market been up. You would look at whether, you know,
we'll definitely come back to all the market reviews and stuff.
Right.
But okay, so you're saying that like if it was a stolen image from something online, then it's not as worthwhile. But what about if it is coming from their own camera? What can you do with that image? Especially since most marketplaces don't have metadata. So I mean, ideally metadata, but what can you do with the image if it's coming from their own camera? They're taking the pictures.
Right. Well, I mean, the first thing is to do a reverse image search to see if it's anywhere on the clear web. That would be one of the things I would do. I'm not quite sure what, I mean, you can look at it to see if there's any kind of noticeable metadata on the front of it that would show if it was like an iPhone taken image or a, you know, a image taken with a different device. But you're not going to get the same kind of metadata that you would with some of the other ones. The other thing though, Kirby, I think is when you're looking at images on the dark web, you need to be really careful with is, although you have a lot of, and when I say dark web, we're talking about Tor today, not I2P. But when you're looking at these images on the dark web, one is to make sure that you're going to places that you're filtering out any kind of porn that's like CSAM, you know, also CSAM.
So images as well, you're saying?
You know, sometimes you want to avoid the images altogether. But if you're specifically doing a drug investigation, obviously you're going to want to include images. So you have to kind of put that into the recipe of your OPSEC plan is am I stripping images out or am I keeping them there? And if you're going to drug market, know that you're going specifically to that drug market, not accidentally going someplace else where you might end up, you know, where there's CSAM. But the other thing with the images is they can contain malware when you are on Tor. And that is something that some people, I guess, they might not think about when they're going on Tor. If you are doing investigations on the Darknet and you're specifically need the images, then you definitely should be doing an isolated environment.
Yeah, I think just the dark web itself kind of like lends to should probably be in an isolated environment, right?
Right. I mean, I use usually, I mean, right now I'm really into using CASM. So I use CASM OSINT when I'm going on to the Darknet. But
yeah, and if you're not familiar with CASM, let me bring that one up because really cool tool in that it provides these workspaces for you. So let's see, container streaming platform. Hold on, I'll share this tab here. So it's CASM, and basically you can, I believe you can get like a local instance of this, but most people I think use the streaming version where you log in and it's their cloud server. You're not worried about infecting your computer at all. You're infecting their cloud server, and hopefully they've got hygiene because they're the professionals who built this for hygiene reasons, right? Internet hygiene reasons.
right.
So,
And
one other thing I want to mention about the images, though, before we move off from the images, is that sometimes even like the peripherals, not even metadata, but peripherals around the image could be like hints. Because I think that if you have one vendor and they always take pictures in the same place, you might be able to recognize, and like that might be branding itself. Like this is my picture of my stuff because it's in my fuzzy white lounge chair or something like that. You know what I mean? Where that itself could be part of the branding and or just part of the analysis.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so how might investigators connect a darknet vendor profile to activity on ClearNet forums, social media, etc.? We kind of covered some of that, right? Identifying them by username, but how can you verify that this username belongs to this dark web vendor?
Well, I mean, obviously, part of that is pattern analysis, but the other part of that is looking at the content. So is it the same content, or is it similar content? Is it the similar text or the same text? And when somebody goes on to the darknet, I mean, they're still in the net. So I mean, even typing patterns can give somebody away.
Okay, and could it be? I mean, I think of like them also advertising their stuff, because if they're using that same, if they're doing branding reasons, they're sending you.
Right.
And so, like, say that you find, you know, Dark Web Bob, and Dark Web Bob's out on Reddit, and he's putting out links that should go to the correct Dark Web Bob spot that you found on the dark web.
And a lot of times also, you'll have like some sellers, they'll be like on the Darknet and Telegram.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Not even Reddit. Could be there. They could be in a specific even Discord. There we go. Discord for people just looking for marketplaces that you know, that is kind of a hidden Discord. And then they send people. Honestly, when I think of the dark web, though, I think that sometimes they don't even bother with the dark web. They just stated Telegram and Discord, or
I mean,
or WhatsApp or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, X and Facebook both have had very overt drug ads.
Right. So. But specifically talking about dark web again, so we'll go back to that. All right. So we talked a little bit about pattern of life and reputation systems, that sort of thing. What are the risks of over relying on the usernames, alias, and handles to attribute the online activity?
Well, it could be a copycat, or it could be somebody with the same name.
And like maybe that person's accidentally using the same name.
Right. I mean, Fred 92 could be, somebody from Seattle and somebody from London, and they could both have
Fred
the same.
420.
Yeah, Fred 420.
Right, and just some guy named Fred who just likes to toke up.
Anything 420, there's probably going to be a double.
Yeah. So it really depends on kind of how unique it is as well, because there could be multiples, right? So like the username I use online, which is Curbster. I used to be the only Curbster, and then mid-teens, for some reason, a flurry of young men decided that was going to be a good username for them too. And so now when you look for Curbster, you find me in places, especially older places, but there's a lot of people with the same username, and it's just because it's not that unique a username. Somebody named Kirby goes by Curbster, hey Curbster. Right? So it's not that unique. I can call you Sarahster, right? I probably wouldn't, doesn't fit as well, but there's probably people who go by that, and then they'll put that. So you got to think of like how unique this username is. And Silk Road as a name of a store would never be that unique, since that is mimicking kind of a real, historical commerce route. Right.
Well, and I mean, that's actually one of the things is when you do use a common name, sometimes that actually helps camouflage.
Yeah, right. Hide in plain sight. Then what you do is you have, for branding purposes, you have like your logos or your sayings or whatever, and the actual keywords don't mean anything as far as searching. You'll find a lot of junk in the way, right?
Right.
Okay, so when we talk about OSINT, and we want to talk about supporting a dark web investigation with OSINT, how do we avoid crossing into hacking or unauthorized access? I mean, is the dark web unauthorized access?
Well, now, there is parts that theoretically, as an investigator, you would have your own unauthorized access or your own kind of box of what you would stay in when you're going on to the darknet, just because of the nature of the illicit materials that are on there. So if you're going on there to look at drugs, you definitely want to avoid CSAM. I mean, that's a given. The other thing is you do need to look at legal boundaries, because in some countries, depending, or even in some states, where what you are investigating on the dark web could be illegal in one area and not illegal in another area. So you need to make sure that you have the standard operating procedure to be able to be looking at the material that you are accessing.
Mhm.
And if you question whether or not you were supposed to access it, you should probably ask someone. And then you should always also have a, when you are in the darknet or any OSINT investigation, is have a venue for reporting, because chances are you're going to come across stuff that you're going to want to report at some point that doesn't necessarily relate to your investigation, but you have an ethical, moral, and sometimes legal duty to report.
Okay, but the dark web itself, just the dark web itself as an existence, is that authorized for most people or unauthorized?
Yeah, anybody can go on the dark web. I mean,
Right.
you know, and there's tons of qualitative information on the dark web. There's reading books on the dark web. The
So when you say
CIA,
qualitative information, you're saying there's a bunch of legal information?
yeah, there's a bunch of legal information on the darknet. So I mean, you have this whole part of the dark web that is illicit and has criminal activities, and then you have, you know, people that are on the dark web because they just want better privacy, or they're in a country where there's state censorship and they're trying to bypass that state censorship. So
Or
I
they're
mean, there's
just nerd and they like to put their stuff in hard to reach places.
exactly, yes.
There are some who
Yeah.
are like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but going back to the knowing if you're hacking versus open source intelligence,
Mhm.
you know, open source intelligence, you're not bypassing a password. You're not breaking into anything. You're only pulling things that are publicly attainable. If it's not publicly attainable, then you should ask yourself if maybe you're delving into other activities. And then that's also a difference between, for example, a research account and a sock puppet for human cyber ops on the dark web. A research account on the dark web, it would be you have a marketplace or a forum on the dark web that they ask you to have a login for. You get a login to passively observe. But as soon as you start chatting and chit-chatting and having meetings with somebody in that same forum, you've now gone past open source intelligence activities into human intelligence activities.
Yep. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. We're kind of recovering some of these questions already. Let's see. How can investigators preserve evidence from volatile online spaces? And that means that, you know, the places where things disappear or change without notice. How can you save the information from the dark net?
Well, there's multiple different software packages you can use to record your screen. So you can use that. Of course, you're going to want to hash stuff, which I know that, you know, you can talk about that a bit if you want. After you get it, you capture it. There's also software packages that you can use that are specifically for OSINT, like one of our sponsors, Forensic OSINT, has a wonderful software suite or platform that you can use for maintaining evidence.
And that software suite would be required to be on a Chrome or Chromium-based browser. Most people, when they think of the Tor browser, that's a Firefox-based browser, but you can use Tails, where you can use whichever browser you want. Tails would just give you a Linux operating system.
Right. And CASM, which I use to access the dark web, CASM actually has Tor and Forensic OSINT both within the CASM OSINT suite. So it's right there for me to use.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as hashing, of course, in your secure environment, you should have some way to hash those files. You don't want to have to take them out and put them in your insecure environment to hash them. So in those secured environments, either with your operating system or, you know, there might be something in Forensic OSINT, I think, and I'm pretty sure there is a way to hash your files. And what that basically means is that you are going to the computer's going to take a look at that file and note all of the metadata, et cetera, about it, and give you a specific string that matches that metadata. If something changes, so for example, you rename the file, you clip the file, you crop the picture, whatever, then it has a different string. And so you can match the strings to identify, whether that's the same photo you originally took in as evidence on May 20th, when you go to court on September 11th or something.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's see. Let's ask a couple more questions. What does this is a good one. What does Operation SpecTor show about the value of long-term intelligence collection rather than just one-off searching? So what does this mean, long-term intelligence collection?
Well, I mean, if you're doing a legal case, like if you're doing a law enforcement legal case, and you
This
need
case, there's multiple cases.
right, you need to build up evidence for that case. And then the other thing is, if it's not a law enforcement case, but it's, let's say you're doing a marketplace for weapons instead of drugs, and it's dealing with counterterrorism, you need to be able to look at it, to be able to collect, to get all of the intelligence that you want from that case. And in some instances, even after you've gotten the first set of information that you need for a requirement, you still might want to continue collecting from that same marketplace, because you're going to have evolutions for future things.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what you're talking is like the ongoing monitoring rather than just like you do this one-off investigation, you search what you can, wrap it up, tie it in a bow, and move on. You're saying, okay, you get all that stuff, you wrap it up, but you hold off. You're not tying it in a bow yet. You're going to see what happens tomorrow and the next day. Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, in a lot of times it's, you might not be after one seller. You might be after the, umbrella distributor. So.
Right. Another thing that I think about as well is that a lot of times, like, somebody has great OPSEC and you're just waiting for that one mistake. You got to be there to catch that mistake.
Right. And there are mistakes in Tor that people can make that also relate to investigators as well. So if you're using, if you're on Tor, when you go out of the exit node, there is some vulnerability there if you're leaving the exit node in an unsecure way, like if you do a CAPTCHA or something like that. But I think that you need to make sure to look at how the market is structured. Are they having people make an account? Is there a CAPTCHA on the marketplace? Is there, like, when you're doing a buy? Is it Monero, which is a little bit more opaque, or is it Bitcoin? If it's a Bitcoin, then it would be easier to research the blockchain to see where that money is going.
Okay, so now I want to take us back to this CAPTCHA discussion. I know the case about the CAPTCHA having to do with the Silk Road, but it might not be what you're talking about. So what the Silk Road case for the CAPTCHA was not somebody being insecure accessing the Silk Road. It was the Silk Road, I believe it was the Silk Road, the Silk Road being insecure in running their CAPTCHA correctly. It wasn't set up so that the whole part of the CAPTCHA came to the dark web. The CAPTCHA actually was a ClearNet part of the whole website. So when FBI came to research that, they found that actually went to a CAPTCHA account that they could trace back to see who opened that account, because it wasn't coming through dark web IP addresses and stuff. All right, so Sarah, is that what you were talking about, or is there another problem?
No, sometimes there will be CAPTCHas on different domains on the Darknet besides that one. So
that they're sharing the same CAPTCHA, so that ties websites together, or what do you mean?
No, I mean, there's other instances of CAPTCHA use as it relates to Darknet markets and Darknet sites. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Tor in and of itself is pretty is pretty secure and robust for privacy. But what makes it insecure is when people will add other things to Tor. So a lot of times they'll add something to Tor that will, Tor might be anonymous, and then they'll add something to it that makes it not as anonymous.
So you're talking about the same way that I was talking about for this.
The same kind of way. But another, there's a whole section, if you look at GitHub, of people will put de-anonymize. Okay. So if they'll see how to, like, you'll have different repos on how to de-anonymize things. So if there's multiple repos on how to de-anonymize Tor, where they're looking at, okay, well, where is the person making the mistake so that we can de-anonymize who's on there. And so there are different, I guess, like different tricks or different, things that people are doing.
Let me like bring this to where I'm hearing and what I also kind of know about. And that is, like, when we're talking about captions, but that's just a section of the website. So when someone builds their website, it's not just, here's a little HTML. That doesn't run a dark website. So they end up, a lot of times you don't build it with your own tools. You buy or you get open source tools from here, there, and everywhere, and you plug them all in so that your website runs really nicely. And then you have to run that all through Tor. And sometimes it doesn't all go through Tor, is what you're saying. And so the key is find the piece that's not going through Tor.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's absolutely. Now, what I was thinking about the CAPTCHA earlier was, like, maybe there was a way that a user used the CAPTCHA wrong. But then, so as far as I know, that's not really an issue. But then another thing came to me to remind me that sometimes the CAPTCHAs are very strange for the dark web. They will make you do different things than most CAPTCHAs will. And that could be like a homegrown CAPTCHA or whatever, but they might do things either try to de-anonymize you or maybe do something that proves to them that you are a criminal to come into their site, sort of thing. So there's some other dangers there as well.
Right. But I mean, you're right in the sense that, I mean, it's the element that's not the Tor itself, the onion routing, it's something being attached to it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not Tor. It's the website embedded in.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So how might everyday citizens contribute useful open source information if they find out, about dark web, websites or whatever illegal happenings? So if we're talking about non-law enforcement, so somebody who just wants to do a little bit of research themselves, what should and what should they not do?
Well, if they're not used to Darknet, they shouldn't go investigate it necessarily themselves, because they might not have the operational security recipe to go in there safely. As I said, like, for example, you might want to strip all images out. If somebody accidentally gets a whole bunch of CSAM on their computer, that can get them in trouble. And you don't want that on your computer because that would be disgusting. So I think, but they do want to definitely report it. So you could do things like report it to cyber tip line for the FBI. The FBI has a cyber tip line on their website. You can definitely report it there. If it is something dealing with what you would think is possible child exploitation, like, let's say you suspect somebody is exploiting kids and they happen to have an onion URL on their domain, you wouldn't want to go open that onion URL. But then you would go take that onion URL and then wrap it up and send it to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which we can put the
URL in cellophane.
Not wrapped in.
Well, tell us how are they wrapping it up?
Well, you would explain the context of. Good question. You would explain the context of why you think. What's the context of why that onion URL would relate to that topic that you suspect that it's related to that topic. And then you would put it in, NMIC has, the tip line on NMIC, they have sections in there where you provide descriptions on why. And so you could put that in there for why, but I definitely wouldn't open the URL.
Right.
And then,
but if they're just on the web and they see an onion link and they copy the URL or whatever. Is it? I mean,
the onion link, if they just see a random onion link, the onion link could be fine. I mean, that's like, it could be, again, it could be somebody's library. There's a whole, like the example I showed earlier with the word meat, after the first entries that were all in that cluster, there was one page that was dedicated to moose meat.
okay.
For people that hunt moose.
Canadians. No, I'm just kidding. I know there's moose in my home state of Montana and in your home state of Vermont.
So,
right?
So I mean, just because there's an onion URL, that does not mean, again, that it's something nefarious. There's lots of onion URLs that are non-nefarious.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
So, so just seeing an onion link is not a danger. And then if you're not in a Tor-enabled browser, then you probably don't really have to worry about it either, right? Because can you do anything with it?
And I think everyday people can go on Tor. There's no reason why you can't. It's just you have to be very selective in what you open.
Right. Right.
And it's pretty clear a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if a website says, opium, then it's like
opium.
Yeah. So.
If a website says hitman and there's a dark web icon, it's probably not a hitman. It's probably
a fraud.
Yeah, that's a well-known fraud that's out there. But I mean, there could be, but
right.
So don't go hire your hitman on the dark web. Don't go hire hitman at all.
Anyway. I think the big game changer with all of this, though, really is the emergence of AI. Because if you go on to and one very popular open source repository right now with the open source intelligence communities is Robin. And Robin is a Python-based tool that is in GitHub that helps you go and just grab a whole bunch of stuff from the dark web. So the manual kinds of investigations that even from 2023 that were being done, although I'm sure they had some automated tools as well. They had some fancy schmancy stuff, but from the OSINT part of it, you can use artificial intelligence open source tooling to bypass some of the things that you had to do before manually with your dark web investigations, especially if you just want to get text of things without photos.
Right. Right. So you could build, for example, your own AI that sits there and like indexes, runs through as much as the dark web as it can, and tries to highlight and say, okay, maybe these are things to be reported for CSAM, and these are to, dark, whatever, harmless, and these are likely drug markets, that sort of thing. I'm sure there are investigative LLMs doing that right now. Speaking of dark web, are there adversary dark web LLMs out there?
Oh gosh, yes. We have well, I was just the one today, which was Fraud GPT. So Fraud GPT is a malicious GPT that was created to help people do scams.
But here's the thing is, if you're a scammer watching this right now and you're like, oh goody, well, bad news, because chances are it's going to scam you too. I know that there's some malicious GPTs that the whole idea was they think that, the crooks think that they're going to be able to use it for crime. And the truth is the creator of the whole thing is crooking right back at them. So, yeah.
Right. So evil or adversarial LLMs are a thing. There was a very immature attempt for somebody to make an extremist neo-Nazi LLM not too long ago. And then, you had Evil Bart. That was another one. Fraud GPT. There's been several, and I think that's just going to continue. And it's going to continue also on the dark web.
Absolutely.
So,
Sarah, what does this case? What do these cases reveal about the myth of total anonymity online?
Well, a lot of times it's the human factor. A lot of times that de-anonymizes. So you have to look at those human errors or flaws. And the other part of it, I would argue, is with all of the AAI spiders and other things that are coming out, or AI using spiders. It's becoming easier to correlate and do pattern analysis and get information quicker than you could before. So
Yeah.
I would say though that on the darknet there are some marketplaces that they vet people before they're even allowed into the marketplace, and you have to log in, and they actually they ask for some kind of proof, and at that point that would, I would think, go past OSINT to other activities.
Potentially, yeah. I know that in some cases they might say, okay, you have to deposit a certain amount of Bitcoin or something, or Monero, so that they say it's not the amount that somebody who would just be like, I'm just going to put a little money in to say I'm human, but more of somebody who's going to be, I'm going to put a good deposit in because I'm going to be buying some shit here, right? So there's that kind of thing as well as, but I think that you're right. I think that the anonymity on the internet thing, it's possible. It's still possible, but you have to be perfect. And then the future has to not be working against you, because as an example, again, whatever you did 5 years ago and you were perfectly anonymous, maybe AI just de-anonymized that, right? So if it's still out there, if somebody's collected it before it was gone, then you still have that to worry about kind of hanging. It's like, I guess genetic DNA kind of thing, where something new happens in the future can unravel the past.
Right.
All right. Well, I think I want to show people what you have collected as far as this stuff goes. There's some resources that you've collected for people to look at, and that happens to be on our digital knowledge base. So this is knowledge base at pluses.net, and we, often have different tools, etc. We try to evaluate where these things come from. And Sarah has a section that is the Darknet. So we've got this Darknet category. And if I scroll down, here's the most recent stuff that you've collected recently. What do those red panels mean?
Oh, red means that you need to use it with great caution, because it probably has something malicious, and you should only do it in an isolated environment.
Okay, and you kind of highlight what that's about as well. But before we look at GPT and its red panel, what about this one that says Robin AI-powered dark web OSINT tool? What is that?
That actually is a very, and I haven't tested it yet, but that is a very popular OSINT tool right now. That's in the, it's a FOSS, so it's a free open source OSINT tool that has a repo on GitHub. It's under a MIT license. It has hundreds of forks, and it's very popular right now for automating dark web investigations. I know that Hackers Rise has a tutorial for it online that you can look up as well.
Okay, so if we jump into this one that says Fraud GPT, you've got the red panel and a little red thing on there, and the usage warning, which we have in here. And you kind of explain here adversarial AI.
Yeah. And I did pull a screenshot of Fraud GPT on the when it went on the dark web, but I definitely did an isolated environment, because that page could have malware.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. That was fantastic. I think this was a great topic. We don't know what topic we're going to do next week. If you want to find out, you probably have to join our community, and that we will decide on Friday. Right, Sarah?
Yep.
All right. So we'll see you next time on OSINT IRL next week. Same time, same bat channel. So it's 3:30 Eastern time, I believe.
Yes. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to our sponsors: Osmosis Association, OSINT Cocktail, Paraben Corp, and and forensic OSINT. Pless's.net powering off.